In reviewing Star Wars The Last Jedi, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. This is my favorite Star Wars movie. There, I said it. Call me a Disney shill all you want, even though I gave A Wrinkle in Time and the Dumbo remake negative reviews, but if you have a legit issue with me enjoying this film, then please just go away. I'm not gonna cower before your rage. Now, if you're an actual sane person who's willing to hear my point of view, regardless if you agree or disagree, then stick around. It'll be fun. I will say there will be some spoilers in this review from the film in order to get my points across. As of recording this, The Last Jedi is on Netflix, but it will be on Disney Plus on December 26th, 2019, if you want to watch it before watching this review. With that being said, this review will mainly be me defending some criticisms that people have over the film and why I feel like these aspects actually work. I'll try to keep it in chronological order of the plot, but no promises. I know everyone loves to harp on this scene where Leia gets sucked into space and uses the Force to get back to the ship, but I actually didn't mind it. If anything, from a science standpoint, it makes sense. Okay, for one, she's not flying. There's zero air resistance in space, and so even the easiest bit of the Force can pull her back to the ship. And some people say that she'd die instantly and her head would explode. That's actually not the case either. You can actually survive unprotected in space for as long as 90 seconds, which was plenty of time for Leia to yeet herself back to the ship. So yeah, really I feel like the scene overall just makes sense. One issue that people seem to have is that after Leia nearly got killed from being sucked out into space, see, she didn't come out of that thing unscathed, Vice Admiral Holdo, played by Laura Dern, takes control and refuses to tell Poe what the plan is. And I think it's kinda obvious why she doesn't tell him. The reason why Holdo doesn't tell Poe about the escape plan is because the only thing she knows about Poe was that he was demoted because he defied direct orders from Leia and caused the deaths of a bunch of pilots. So really, what do you expect Holdo to do? I feel like what Holdo did actually did make sense. And some people were saying, wait, wouldn't it be smarter of them to jump into hyperspeed or go a little bit faster in order to escape the First Order? Well, that wouldn't really work. The Resistance can't jump to hyperspeed to escape the First Order because they only have enough fuel for one hyperjump. Plus, it was made clear that the First Order can track their hyperjump, making the jump a useless tactic anyway. The next criticism people seem to have is that Finn completely repeats his arc from the first film, disregarding any development. But did he though? Yeah, he went through his arc in The Force Awakens, but keep in mind that he hadn't faced near death as much as he did when he went up against Kylo Ren. This was his first true taste at what facing the First Order head-on would be like. So yeah, it makes sense as to why he'd have a brief stint of apprehension. But even then, that apprehension was only in one scene in the beginning of the film. After that, he's just back to regular Finn again. Now, if he does this again in The Rise of Skywalker, then fine, I will give you that. It would feel very repetitive at that point. As for The Last Jedi, I feel like it makes sense here in this specific context. I also don't get why people got so upset that we didn't find out anything about Snoke. I mean, we know all we need to know about him. He's evil and powerful. You know who else we knew nothing about who was also evil and powerful? The Emperor. Like, no one complained that we knew diddly squat about him, and this was before the prequels even existed where we did learn more about him. So why are people upset at this now? I mean, it's not like this hasn't happened before. Also, I don't get why people say that Kylo Ren lied to Rey about who her parents were. For one, he didn't lie about anything. He didn't tell her that her parents were nobodies. Granted, he knew that her parents were nobodies. He even knew that she knew that her parents were nobodies. But watch the scene again. She admits that her parents are nobodies herself. So, Kylo didn't lie about anything. Also, why does she need to be related to anyone significant? Anakin came from nobody and everyone was fine with that. If anything, I think any scene involving Luke, Rey, and Kylo Ren are all honestly some of the best Star Wars stuff I've ever seen. It's taken in a very philosophical way, and by the time the film was finished, I felt like I learned more about the Force, the light side, and the dark side. Good and evil is not as black and white as we'd like it to be. Sometimes screw up, even when they have the best intentions. And while many people seem to think this film is completely about disregarding the past and letting it die, I really think that's not the case. Yes, Kylo Ren has that mindset. Yes, Luke initially says that too, but they were both misguided, and Luke realized that. When Yoda makes his appearance later on, he shows Luke that the past can bear great mistakes, but there's still much wisdom to be had there as well that we must teach the future generations. Failure is our greatest teacher. Now let's get to the biggest criticism that everybody has over this movie, and that's the way Luke Skywalker is portrayed. What happened to Luke? He would never do this. He should be exactly the same as he was in the original trilogy. Look, has Luke gone through a bit of a philosophical change in this film? Yeah, there's still elements of Luke as we knew in there, but he has changed over the years. But I feel this is the best aspect of the film. Why, you may ask? Well, because I've seen this exact change happen before with a real person, but even quicker. We all know Jim Carrey, right? One of the greatest comedic actors ever, starring in wacky comedies like Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. Even in interviews back in the day, he was very upbeat and energized. He could light up the room and drive anyone insane with laughter. Like, watch.
No, sis. My seminars across the country are attended by tens of hundreds of people, even world-famous celebrities such as Jan Michael Vincent.
Really?
Yeah.
But something happened with Jim Carrey between 2015 and 2017. See if you can see the difference.
Come on. How you doing? Good, man. How's life? Everything good?
You know, it's so beautiful. It really is, especially when I'm absent from it.
You feel like you're separated from the rest of the world and what's going on?
No, not separated at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. You know, don't get me wrong, you know, Jim Carrey is a great character, and I was lucky to get the part. But I don't think of that as me anymore.
You don't? Not at all?
Not really, no. I used to be a guy who was experiencing the world, and now I feel like the world and the universe experiencing a guy.
While you can see hints of Jim Carrey in there, he overall became a very different person. Some might say, very abruptly. But Jim Carrey at this point was going through personal struggles, professional struggles, and tragedy. And all of this happened in an even shorter time frame than Luke Skywalker's change. This is what happened with Luke Skywalker. He experienced something in his life that was so personally troubling that it changed his personality. Now, Jim Carrey bounced back and is no longer as troubled as he was, which is also exactly what happened to Luke. Luke was able to find his way again, and all of this comes together in the climax of this film, when Luke Skywalker, or in this case, a Force projection of Luke, arrives not to fight the Resistance, but to create a distraction to allow them to escape. He pulled himself together from his experiences and became the hero we all knew and loved. In many ways, even if it was completely by accident, it almost feels like Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi was inspired by Jim Carrey. Again, Luke wasn't a comedian or anything like that, but the same basic principle of how someone can change feels pretty similar to what happened with Carrey. So yeah, in conclusion, I absolutely love Star Wars The Last Jedi. A lot of people hate it, but I found there was so much to learn and examine in this film. It's the Star Wars film that made me think the most. Hell, if you noticed, I didn't even review the film when it came out. It's one of those movies like Avengers Endgame where there's so much to unpack and study that it honestly gets better the more I watch and think about it. If you hate the film, this isn't going to change your mind, and that's not what this video is for. But maybe you can come out of this review with a better understanding as to why I love it, and why it is my #1 favorite Star Wars movie. By the way, if you're one of those people who claim that the film promotes toxic feminism and focuses on gender studies to appease the social justice warriors, then please kindly go fuck yourself, because that's not only stupid, but the characters would have literally been the same if the genders were switched. Sorry, snowflakes.